what is this reality all about? Like, what do you think we're here for?
You're coming in hot with the easy questions, right?
The podcast
Yeah.
is called Pretty Intense.
This qualifies as a pretty intense question. I guess I would say we're here to have experiences, grow from those experiences, and then figure out how to contribute to a better world by virtue of what we've learned as a result of those experiences and the growth that we've encountered as a result of them.
Yeah. I mean, growing is fundamental to me as well. Um, what do you think? Do you think that it's easier or harder in the world right now? Like there just seems to be I mean, the world in the last couple of years has just been so interesting and different. And at times it feels like timelines are so fast and I don't know how spiritual you get or anything, but it just it seems like a different reality we continue to evolve into. And so you know, do you think it's easier or harder than ever? Do you think there is more good than ever or more bad than ever?
I think it's a little bit of both. I would say that things are pretty intense right now for everybody, right? It is very intense out there. Everything feels intense. Everything feels heavy, and it's an interesting time because we have free access to so many tools to help us become better, happier, more fulfilled, etc. But we also have a culture that um, I think in certain ways coddles us and
Mm-hmm.
tells us that the recipe for happiness is comfort and luxury and material accumulation. And so it's never been easier to be kind of sedentary, right? And
Mm-hmm.
with the sedentary nature of our lives and the easy access through Postmates and delivery, services to have our food, sent directly to us. Like we don't have to do very much, right?
It's
Uh,
kind of the lap of luxury
and
as
we've
much as you want it.
yeah, and we've deluded ourselves into thinking this will make us happy, but I think this is
Right.
moving us further and further apart from happiness, because happiness is a function of feeling alive, and in order to feel alive, we have
Mm.
to inure ourselves to putting ourselves in challenging circumstances, to get out
Mm.
of our comfort zone and try new things. And our culture doesn't necessarily drive us in that direction, which means we have to take responsibility for that ourselves. It's insane to me that we live in a nation that is so unbelievably prosperous, and yet we've never been more unhealthy as a society. Obesity rates, type 2 diabetes, heart disease,
Mm.
these conditions, which are chronic lifestyle ailments, a result of the choices that we make about how we live and what we eat and how we move our bodies, are unnecessarily debilitating and killing millions of people every year. Meanwhile, our rates of depression, anxiety, all of these mental disorders are higher than they ever have been. We're medicating people, we're feeding ourselves terrible processed foods, and we're sitting on our couch and we have an endless stream of choices to make about entertainment to distract us from our reality or whatever it is that we're uncomfortable with in our lives. And so we're in this mild medicated state at all times. Whenever we're bored, we can just pick this thing up and scroll through it. And so I think we're detached and distanced in a way that we never have been historically from what makes us human, which is community and analog experiences and moving our bodies and living more in sync with the natural rhythms of the planet. All of these, kind of historical primal ways of being that are built into our DNA and are instinctual are anathema to the modern way of life. And you know, so it creates this dissonance, I think, because like I said at the outset, we do have access to all the answers. Information is not the problem. Behavior change is the problem. And trying to figure out how to merge the information with the behavior change, I think is really key. But it's confusing for a lot of people right now. People get mixed messages about how to live. And again, it requires, because a lot of these modalities of modern living are highly addictive, like,
Right.
whether it's Netflix or your phone or processed food or the comfortable chair at your house, whatever it is, like, it's hard to break those habits because they've been specifically designed to addict you, frankly. So it's almost like not our fault. It's that the whole infrastructure of our society is driving us towards these behaviors that are making us unhealthy and unhappy.
Design a society, design a culture, design a community, design a reality that would be the antidote to all of the problems that you just so well laid out.
Yeah, so you're going to ask me to solve the world's problems,
Yep.
Danica. That is a
Yep.
very intense,
Well,
that's
you've talked
more than
to
a pretty intense
700
question to say.
people. You're really
Yeah.
smart. You're very articulate. You're very wise. You've been through a lot yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would say, first and foremost, like, I'm not going to tell you that I have the answers to all these problems, nor am I going to tell you that I've mastered the routine that takes me out of the allure and the pull of the world that we live in.
You're
I
human.
do a few things. I mean, like, I'm human and I'm on my phone too much, and I get short with my kids from time to time. And, I like a good, Netflix crime show just like everybody else. So,
I watched
I don't
Dahmer.
live,
I get it.
yeah, okay, right. But I do, have certain things that I make sure that I do, if not daily, as close to daily as possible. And that is a morning meditation practice, a journaling practice, getting out in nature every single day. And I do that through my endurance training, whether it's, swimming, cycling, running, or hiking or something like that. Like, I try to get outdoors every single day. I sleep outdoors in a tent. I don't know if you know that, knew that
Don't
about
know
me.
that.
But I actually sleep outdoors and have for like the last 3 or 4 years at this point. That's a whole other story that I can tell you about. But to kind of stay on point, I try to have rules around the phone. I try to make sure that I carve out time for friendships, no matter how busy I am. And that's something that I haven't been historically great at, and I'm trying to do more. And that kind of leads into, the broader, like, what would the ideal society look like for me? I think the answer to that is first appreciating that we're not going to move backwards technologically. Like, the technological innovation curve is going to continue. So accepting that as a truth and a immutable reality, how can we live more meaningful lives within that construct? I think, if we could return to, not to be too hippy-dippy about it, but if we could live a more communal existence, I think that would solve a lot of our problems. Like, it really does take a village to raise children, to feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself, to have, mutual shared responsibilities for, things that, a collective relies upon. Like, all of those things, I think, are what make us human. And living, on a cul-de-sac in a suburban neighborhood doesn't serve us in that regard. And, as a parent and as somebody who has parents who are now elderly, and my father-in-law who passed away, like, we've all had experiences with how we treat our elders, which I think is abominable. Like, it used to be they were part of the community and they were respected, and these were the wise ones that we
Right.
counted upon to share their experiences. Like, that is not part of our culture whatsoever. We just warehouse them once they reach an age in which they're no longer productive. Coming of age customs for young people, where they have to, as a collective, endure certain rites of passage as they
Sure.
become older, is also a tradition that historically has been part of what it means to be human. That's no longer the case.
Like a
The
vision
sitting
quest or
around the
something.
a vision, yeah, something, like, now we have, the only thing we have now is like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and bar mitzvahs. But, the roots of that, the antecedent of those rites of passage, have been, traditionally much more robust and challenging. And,
Mm.
I think we would be better off if every young person had to enter some form of public service after high school, whether that's military or Peace Corps or, some kind of collective experience that is about service, because I think, we're in a culture where we value individualism and material gain and status, and we're missing the bigger picture, which is how are we all contributing to a greater whole. And I think that used to be part of the American experience, and now, as we've arrived at this splintered, fractured reality that we live in, I don't feel like we have any kind of shared principles that allow us to cohere as a nation. And I think a return to what could really bond us as a broader culture would be something that young people have to all do, like some kind of mandatory service, I think would be extremely beneficial.